Hello and welcome to Time to Startup, a podcast brought to you by WPI i3 Lab. Today is going to be a special conversation because I'm honored to be joined here by Professor Rosanna Garcia. She is the Beswick Endowed Chair of Innovation and Entrepreneurship at WPI Business School. She's a two-time startup founder. She is also the founder of the i3 Lab, which I work, makes her my boss. And she is also a fellow of the OPED project on public voices in technology for the public interest, which we'll talk a little bit about it towards the end of the podcast. But beyond all the titles and all the great achievement that she has, we want to talk mainly about the human story, her entrepreneurial journey, and her vision around building ecosystems in university settings and empowering the next generation of entrepreneurs. Professor Garcia, thanks for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you. This is going to be fun. I have never interviewed any of my bosses before, so we'll see.
Does that mean I have to be nice?
No. No, just be yourself.
Be myself.
Be yourself. That's nice for me. So I want to, before we get into all the, like I said, the titles and all the, the later part of academia work, for our audience and students, we have professors here and students come to the classroom and all that stuff, but it would be very interesting for our audience to see, like, who is Professor Garcia before she was Dr. Professor Garcia? Who is Rosanna Garcia? What is her early life? What inspired her? If you can talk a little bit about that.
Okay. So, I think back on all the things that I've done, and you've mentioned, actually it's been quite a bit, and I've had a very varied path on where I am and how I ended up at WPI. But I do want to take it back to actually when I was in high school in California. So I am born, raised California. I'm sixth generation American, so my family's been around in the U.S. for a very, very long time. But it certainly was, I'm first generation college, and it wasn't something my parents experienced or anybody else in my family, but they knew education was important. So I knew I wanted to go to college. I wasn't sure what I was going to be doing in college until I took a chemistry class. And I'll be very honest, I loved chemistry. I looked up salaries, and I looked to see who made more money, a chemist or a chemical engineer. And it was the chemical engineer. So I said, that's the route I'm going. It's really great way to choose a career, right? Who makes more money? And I set that as a goal for myself. So I started looking at schools in California that had chemical engineering. And that's how I ended up at UC Santa Barbara, because they had a chemi degree. I will say back then, not only was I one of the few women in the classroom, I was definitely maybe the only Hispanic in the classroom at that time. So there was very, very few Hispanic females and Hispanics looking at engineering. And I do have to say that the university there was very, very supportive of us, and that made a big difference.
So you mentioned that, and it's from today's world, it's kind of almost seem like, what is she talking about? I was the only Hispanic. And I'm thinking California, large Hispanic population, probably the only person, female and Hispanic in the class. What was that like? It's different now because you can find your other people that you can resonate with. How was that for you?
At the time, I didn't realize how challenging it actually was. And part of it is because I did have great university support, and that made the world of difference to me. And I think, like I said, everything that I do now and everything I'm doing today actually does stem from that beginning. One, engineering, innovation, but also having such strong university support. And that's what we try and do at the i3 Lab. And you know that's my mission there. You know, we are there for the students, 100%. But I do think that also goes back because I got 100% support from the community when I was at UC Santa Barbara. And I truly believe that that made a difference. I even looked for the main mentor recently and went on LinkedIn and thanked her.
Oh,
because
wow.
it was, you know, like I said, it impacts everything that I do
That's
today. I'm going to throw it out there and to WPI. Our numbers are not that great when it comes to women. And I just looked at these numbers. So 60% of our population is for male and 40% is women. It's been going down in more recent years. And I think we can do a better job of being more inclusive and showing women and of all nationalities that they are welcome here and should be in looking at STEM degrees. So that's also, as you know, the other part of kind of my mission in life is just to make sure that it's open to anybody who wants to explore it. Like I said, I didn't know anything about engineering, and I ended up there because it made more money. Nobody in my family knew what engineering was. And then when I got into the engineering program,
I really hope my kids will listen to this podcast as a reference for what to choose later on.
You know, obviously innovation's been a great place for me. And that's where, again, that foundation was there.
After you were done with your chemical engineering, then you have another degree in business economics, and then you went and did an MBA.
Yep.
What...
And so that
How did you
yeah.
merge those and why?
And that was something I found as an undergraduate, that I really enjoyed the engineering. I enjoyed the innovation side. And this is probably where in the classroom I struggled. And I freely admit that to anybody. I struggled, and I struggled a lot. And I thought I wasn't good. And something that probably in the classroom, you know, that's probably where women were seen as, well, you aren't capable of being an engineer. And I probably got some of that and took it and internalized it when it's not true. And so I started to explore what were the things that I could do with innovation. And I said, I can combine business and innovation together. And so I actually ended up making that major for myself with 2 degrees. So I ended up graduating with both degrees, with a business and in engineering. However, it was very good for me because I think that's where I fit. That's the way my brain works, is looking at the more the ecosystem part of it, and that's the business side, as well as the innovation side. So when I went on for my MBA, I worked for a couple of years in the industry, in chemical engineering area, and then I went to business school. And in business school, it's actually where I really found my grounding, because I took a class in new products. And so, you know, this is for faculty and students. You don't know who's going to impact you and why. I love that new products class. I'm like, this is me. This is it. And Ron Yapel, Professor Ron Yapel, I'm sure he's passed by now, but that was another influence in my life.
You felt home.
I did. I felt at home. He encouraged that interest of mine, that curiosity. I'll tell you, the first project that I ever did in regards to new products was for Canandaigua Winery in their champagne, and that was my course project. And so, again, you can see, you know, my classes, I have projects. But I had a project that impacted my future career, and we, as our project, we were trying to determine J. Roget. That's where we got involved with the new products, and that project-based class, again, was really influential in saying, this is what I want to do. And that's what I ended up doing when I graduated. I actually was hired on as a new product manager at a telephone company. So it was, at that time, Rochester Telephone became Frontier, and I was thrown into new products, which was really exciting place to be. And to this day, I love that area. Which is why I like entrepreneurship.
Yeah. So I have a lot of questions around your sort of entrepreneurial journey for yourself. But before we get there, I'm also curious to stay in the sort of the academic side for a couple more minutes. Um, what time somebody wakes up in the morning and say, you know what, I had enough of working in industry. I'm thinking to become an academic, and I want to be a professor. How?
Yeah.
Why? What? How?
So I actually often share this story, particularly with people who are thinking about a PhD. And I do advise a lot of our PhD students. So a little story was I was working as a new product manager. I enjoyed what I was doing, but one of the things that we did is you go to conferences. And so it was called, and it's still going on, it's the Product Development Management Association. And I would attend their conferences, but the academic conference was going on at the exact same time in another room across the hotel. And I would sneak over there because I thought they were doing really cool things. And
Which
I'm
one
like,
was louder?
Actually, the practitioner's side was louder. The academics were a little more subdued and more academic in their approach. But I thought that the studies they were talking about, these were cutting edge things we weren't thinking about as practitioners because we were trying to do our day-to-day jobs. They were more out there, and I thought that was really interesting. So one year I went to one of the professors, her name is Abby Griffin, and I asked Abby and introduced myself to Professor Griffin, said, I think I'm interested in a PhD, but I don't know. Mm-hmm. So she said, okay, here's a whole bunch of articles. Go off and read these articles. And she just gave me the names and the titles. Well, at the time, we didn't have the internet. I know I'm aging myself, but it was
the library, right?
Yeah, had to go to the library, but I didn't have access to a university library. So I actually went and hired a BU student. I was living in Massachusetts, hired a BU student to get all of these articles. She came back with a stack of 50 articles. I read all the articles. I thought, this is really cool. I went back to Professor Griffin the next year and said, I read all those. I think they're really interesting. I like this, and this is really great. I said, but how do I know? And her response to me is, you're the only person that's ever come back.
And read the 50 articles. Yeah, probably by article 3, people were like,
this is not for me.
Oh, God.
And so I'm like, this is for me. I know that this is what I should be doing. And so, again, another mentor, right? Abby Griffin. And so, that is going to be a common theme, I think, on everything that I've done. I've had mentors along the way that has really helped me. And so, I think our students will say, I try and help them as much as I can, but it's because I got that uplift from my mentors.
Oh, that's a fascinating story of like reading the 50 papers and be like, what? Nobody came back ever. That's a good one. So you've done all this, which is pretty great. But you also didn't just work somewhere, work for universities. At some point, how does one wake up again and be like, you know what, the hell with this? I want to start my own business. How was that for you? Because, some people stumbled into something and then it turns into a business, and some people just wake up one morning like, I had enough, I want to do something for myself. How was that the first time for you?
Yeah, that actually what we talk about from a academic point of view is we talk about entrepreneurship in a very simple terms as being an opportunity or a necessity. And I saw an opportunity. So I was working in the telephone industry, and this was back quite a long time ago, and actually voicemail was just becoming a thing. It used to be the answering machines. Yep. And I was working for the telephone company, and we wanted to sell voicemail. And the opportunity that came along was that I saw that there needed to be a way to let you know you had a voicemail, because there wasn't a way of doing that. So I came up with an idea, and that idea actually was an attachment for telephones when we had the physical telephones, and put it out there. And we called it vaporware at the time, and since I'd been working with new products, I knew how to do this, how to test out a new product in the marketplace, and I threw out an ad and got a response. And we got enough responses that we say, okay, we better go out and build this. And that's actually what happened.
So you threw the ad first without building the product?
Yep. And that's why they call it vaporware. I don't know how many people do that now. It's probably not encouraged.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you're doing this. You have a background in academia a little bit. You've
Well,
been in,
when I first started my first company, I didn't have academia.
oh, so you were in before you did your PhD,
Yeah.
your first company.
Yeah.
But you had product experience.
Yes. Yeah.
And all that. Then you went on and built a second company, which you still run.
Yes. And so there's a
So why
whole,
does somebody who does it once be like and knows all the
Yeah.
the madness that goes into starting a business, right?
Yeah.
And the sleepless nights and all that, you're like, you know what, I'm gonna do this again.
and I will tell you, I did sell the first company.
Oh wow, wonderful.
Yeah. And so that's actually what gave me the funds to be able to go to get my PhD.
Oh, that's a great story.
Because I ended up selling it. So I worked for industry, and then I built the company. I sold the company. I went back to industry. So that's when I was in industry, when I started going to the PDMA conferences and meeting Professor Griffin. At the end of my first company, I told myself, I will never, ever do that again.
I'm done.
I am done. All the responsibility of sales and salaries, and it is a lot on you to know that you are responsible for somebody's livelihood.
Yeah, because right.
I don't make payroll.
Right, you don't make payroll. People can't put food for their children,
And I did mortgage my house,
yeah.
in order to have the funding I needed to move the company forward.
Something goes down, then you
Yeah.
have a second mortgage, and
Yep.
you have some people that were relying on you. So it's
Yeah. So I said never again.
and then
And then, boom. So, I think it's just part of having that framework of innovations, and another unique opportunity came along. I had a second home, a vacation home, and this was at the very beginning of Airbnb. I posted my home on Airbnb, and it was vandalized by a guest of $18,000 in damage. I got a call from the neighbor and saying, we think something's going on. And I wasn't there, so I sent my sister to look at the house. And she did find that at the house there was a massive party of teenagers going on. And what had happened, and this was early on Airbnb, is that the person who rented my place used a stolen credit card to put down on Airbnb and a fake ID.
Mm-hmm.
When I found out who the individual really was, that his Twitter name was Be Kinky. And
sort of giving it away, right?
yeah, and that was my thought. Like, if I had known that Be Kinky was going to be renting my vacation home, there is no way I would have let this person in. Even though Airbnb said they vetted him, there's no way. So that's what I started thinking early on in Airbnb and the sharing economy. You want to know who you're getting in a relationship with, even if it's just a short-term weekend type of thing. So that's when, again, opportunity. And I said, I know how to solve this problem. And that's how the company started. So we actually built an app, and in the app, we created a way that you could go out and look for somebody's social media. And we then went around and pitched that company to, let's see, so I was in academia already when this was happening. And we went around and we pitched that company to every single sharing economy company out there. I had several meetings with Airbnb. How did I get those meetings? I actually went out to the president of the company and said, your guest vandalized my home. You need to know what's going on, and here's some solutions I have for you. So it was cold emails, but they were very targeted.
Responded?
They did.
Oh, wow.
I had
wonderful.
about 3 meetings with them. And this is what our idea, here's your problem, here's what you need to do to fix it, and we have a solution.
And did you end up working with Airbnb? Or?
No. We worked with no sharing economy companies. And so this is where the story comes in.
So they need it, but they don't want to work with you.
And
why is that?
They call it friction. They don't want to create friction. What's better in their business model is to pay off the insurance. They pay insurance, the insurance company pays those who've been vandalized.
Right.
And that's a better business model.
Because otherwise, then they'll kick off a lot of people out of their platforms.
Correct.
and they have less circulation.
Yes.
That's an interesting of like how you could have a really good product,
And
but friction.
yep. And
can
now
be
I know better, and I know better that you do customer discovery.
For
So yes, and so
Yeah.
that is something here at the i3 Lab. We pound on our students.
Yep.
Go and do customer discovery, till they're sick of it. But that's my experience.
I've in our last summer accelerator, I told them the figure, roughly what I would have saved in my life had I done customer discovery early on. And to my defense, in my early days, I didn't even know what it is. So
right.
you don't know what you don't know.
You know.
And they just, some of them look at it and they go like, he must be making that figure
Oh,
up.
no.
But like, nope. And there are companies out there, even large corporations, that they go through that.
Oh,
And-
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
and some don't do customer discovery, and then they find out, ouch, later on, and they
I-
shelve the products.
I worked for a company that they spent $10 million building out the product. They hired me to market the product, new product, and I came back to them and said, there is no market. $10 million later,
Mhm.
the company did go out of business.
Wow. Yeah.
And
so-
and if they had done the customer discovery, they would have realized they were building the wrong product. Again, very early days of voicemail, but they built out the wrong product. And if they had talked to their customers before they went into engineering development, it would have saved them $10 million and me a job.
and they could have been still in business,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So-
second company, you were, go ahead.
So I got to finish the story.
Yeah,
I told you
go
it was a
ahead.
long
Yeah.
story.
No, it's good.
All right. So I don't have a customer
Uh-huh.
because they don't have a need. We enter an accelerator, so a couple of different accelerators we're involved in, and I need to find a customer who needs what we have. I had no idea. And our advisors were saying, well, you just got to go out there and throw it out there to see, does
See
any,
what sticks.
Yep, see what sticks. See who might have a need for this technology you developed, which was good, and it worked. And it ended up being, who came back to us was a jury consultant
Interesting.
and asked, can you do that kind of background on potential jurors? And we
Oh, I
said,
see.
of course we can. And what was important for us was that when we built out the app, we knew it had to be quick. You had to get a response very quickly. And that's what the jury consultant needed. Well, the lawyers, they're in the courtroom, they get the jury in front of them, and they want to know immediately who I'm working with. And what's the best way to know something about somebody is
Which
there's-
one to exclude from being
well,
a
what
juror?
questions
and
you can't, they can't exclude, but they can end up asking questions that will get them excluded.
I see. Yeah, okay.
But now they know what questions, and we could do that. And so we could do it very quickly, and that's what we do now.
So you were building a startup to deal with the Airbnb vandalization of properties,
yep.
and you end up serving trial lawyers.
Correct. That is called
That's
a pivot.
the power of pivoting, huh?
Yes.
I don't know if anybody watched the show Friends. There's a scene where they're moving a couch and they say pivot, pivot, pivot.
Yes.
But that's a powerful.
we
pivot.
pivoted to an entirely new building, not just,
Yeah.
not in the same room, not the same industry. No, completely.
That's a very interesting thing. So
Yeah.
to how you have to stay open for clues
Yes.
while you're
Yeah.
trying to find if you have product market fit.
Yeah. Yeah. So I can share a little bit of information. Right now, currently, today, we have a very big job, and I'm not going to say what state for or anything, but it's a murder trial. And we are being requested to find this is only public information. We only find public information, find social media for 500 individuals. And that's the job we're working on right now. Whole different story on how we end up developing the product. How did we end up getting a good product? I'll also share the thing that really differentiates us from our competitors. One of the things I did, and this gets kind of back to the social impact that I like having, who we hire are military spouses. They move every 2 years, and because of that, they can't keep a job. So we're online.
Okay,
I don't
so
care where they're at.
That's a wonderful
And that's who's doing
mission to have
Yeah.
and the impact.
and that's our researchers are these military spouses. I know that they're going to be discreet. I know they're going to show up for a job on time.
Yep.
They're intelligent and they're very loyal. I know I have one in Germany right now because that's where her husband is stationed.
Oh, wow.
But she can work for us. It doesn't matter. We're picking up public information only so she can access what's public. And then we repackage that and get it to the lawyers. So this particular case is going, they're going to start jury selection on Monday. We got the job yesterday.
Oh,
And
nice.
so we'll be doing 500 names between now and then. So like I say, that is what differentiates us, is that we're quick and we're accurate.
That's a wonderful story also, and it goes to say that you can build a company, you can have a for-profit business,
Mm-hmm.
and you can make a ton of money, and you can also at the same time have a good social mission.
And that is definitely our social mission.
These things don't have to be opposites of
No.
each other. They can go hand in hand easy. So let me ask you a couple of questions around. So second time around, you are in academia, you have your PhD, you've been teaching for a while, you're doing research papers, and we won't go too much into it today, but she's a very well-established researcher and a published academic, but we'll probably have that discussion another time when I know how to read her papers. Just so if you can maybe think for a second or two, like, now that you're equipped with all this from the academic background, how much did that help, or in maybe some cases hinder, your startup journey the second time around? You have all this knowledge with
Yeah.
you. Was it super extra helpful when you started the second business, or
it-
here and there?
No, it was extremely helpful. And being able to just have that knowledge base. So, part of it, of course, was my industry background, new products, really knowledgeable about that, how to get things into the marketplace. And so, of course, that's very useful when it comes to launching your company. But also, it gives me a sense of, we study ecosystems. And so understanding the ecosystem and the resources that are available and knowing where to go to look for help. So
Mhm.
kind of getting back to that mentor thing. You always, no matter where you are, there's people that are experts in the area you don't know about. And I know I can go and look for these experts and call upon them, and that they'll be helpful. And that's where the academic side has certainly come in. A question, may be asked, well, why am I staying in academia? Why don't I just go off and keep running this company? Why do I do both? But for me, I think it also gets very important. I actually took a leave of absence from academia
Mhm.
and to focus on the company. So I took 6 months off and only focused on the company to try and get it to scale, get it to grow. But what I did for myself in that period of time, every single day, I wrote down, where did my joy come from?
Oh, I see.
And at the end of this period, my joy came from being a mentor to other startups.
Oh, I see. So it was that beyond the money part.
Yes.
Gave you more fulfillment than
Then
let me be the full-time CEO
Correct.
of the company.
of a company and
Yeah.
seeing it scale and seeing it grow. And that's when I said, I need to be in academia.
You
And
did.
and I do advise people, if you're in a dilemma, I'm not sure which route to go, it's
Test
a
it out.
really great exercise.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, where did you get your joy that day from? And it's going to lead you to a place, hopefully that makes money,
Yeah.
but also is satisfying for who you are and what you believe in.
All right, we're going to do a quick fire round, if you don't mind, and then we're
Okay.
going to move to the work at WPI,
Okay.
because I'm excited to talk about that. What is the biggest myth about startups, according to you?
I'm going to say it's funding. There's a lot of uncertainty about how to get funding. And there's two sets of stories. One is that funding's easy. You just pitch your AI company and you're going to get funded. It used to be pitch your internet company and you'd get funded. And so there's these trends that happened. And there's the opposite side is that pitch your company and you won't get funded, no matter how hard you try. And I do feel that not every company is going to get VC funding, nor should you want VC funding. And so, as you know, there's a whole big discussion there. So I think the biggest question that comes out is, how do I get funding? Do I go to friends and family? Do I go to angels? Am I really a VC company? Do I mortgage my house? Do I do a double job while I'm getting my company to launch? Do I go to the i3 lab and ask for grants and win pitch competitions?
If you're a student, you do.
Yes. And there's also something we call non-dilutive funding, which is grants. So I think that's a mystery that people don't know, how do I fund my company?
So they get all confused in that whole...
And you hear all these different things. No, you need a VC funding. No, you don't need VC funding.
And now with a lot of news and videos and there's everybody advising everybody, and not all advice is good, unfortunately. So and people get more confused. So knowing how to clear through the noise from that.
And the companies you hear about are the Airbnbs and the Ubers that went out and got VC funding and got really big.
But the other 99% didn't. So
And there's still successful companies out there that didn't have VC funding.
Yeah, and there are times that you don't have to get VC funding. You can bootstrap and build a good company and be good with. What do the first-time founders consistently underestimate, according to you?
They consistently underestimate the power of customer discovery. It's hard to do. It's awkward to do.
You have to talk to strangers.
I just talked about it in my class last night. It is one of the most difficult things to do, is to go out and talk to a stranger. It's just uncomfortable. But as we know, and I said my earlier story, it's so powerful. That amount of time, it's a little bit amount of time, it's cheap to do, it's your own time, so it's not these big expenses, will have such a strong benefit down the road.
Remember, customer discovery. Those two words. All right, so this is more personal. Were you ever, while you're building these companies, the first time or the second time, did you ever have a moment of like, that's it, I'm going to quit this?
Every day.
It's too much. I knew I was just going to go there.
Every day.
I'm done with this.
I'm done with this.
Right? And then you wake up tomorrow morning and you're like, gotta keep going.
And if I could just throw a little tidbit in there, which it ties to my research. And so one of the things that I research is these not high growth companies. They are growing, scaling companies, but we do find that women and marginalized populations is what we call them. So they may be racially marginalized, could be from a physical perspective, previously incarcerated. That's the marginalized population. That population has a tendency to look at not just the revenues, but their social impact. And that's what I try and understand in my research, because I know, as we talked about, I'm not just about the money. I'm also about who am I impacting, and my employees are one of those that I impact and have a positive impact on. Some people, it's their customers. Some people, it's the environment. And so that is what keeps us going on a day-to-day basis. Even if I had more money in the world that I knew what to do with, I'd still be doing the company because of the impact I know I'm having on my employees.
So it's more now at this point, more for the employees, and then keeping it going for them. Then it's like, I can make X amount more.
And what we find in the research side of it is that profits is not the only success story. And that these companies have other reasons for being successful. Is it their family success? Is it their community success? Is employees, a lot of employee empowerment that we see. And that's what gets them up and motivated every single day, as opposed to saying, I'm putting another $1 million in my bank account.
I don't think the story gets told enough, though.
I agree.
I wish there was more of emphasis in this story, especially in the United States.
Yes.
I mean, it's a great fertile ground for entrepreneurship, the greatest in the world. But I wish there were more voices talking louder about this side of entrepreneurship.
Yeah. And that's what I try and do in my research, is get those voices heard.
Yeah, that's a wonderful story. And all right, so let's shift to your WPI work.
Yes.
So you've been here for 5 years now?
It'll be
6
5 years. It'll just finishing up 5.
Just about 5
Mhm.
years. You show up at WPI. It's well, you're familiar with Massachusetts, but I was going to say it's cold. It's like you've been here before, and you are named the Beswick Chair of Entrepreneurship at Innovation and Entrepreneurship at WPI, and you founded. Used to be called the Business Development Lab, now the I3 Lab. Why, as I say, wake up in the morning and I need to do this. Was there a gap? What was going on? They were like, okay, this needs to be done.
Yes. So you mentioned the Business Development Lab, and so that is where I first started, and that's where you and I ended up meeting and working together. And it really was, what I saw at WPI was there was a gap, and a gap both for faculty and students on how to take an idea and get it into the marketplace. And now you know my history. That's all I've been doing on my entire life. From taking an innovation and then new products and get it out there in the marketplace, my companies. And I knew that with the right support, that the faculty and student ideas, we could get into the marketplace if that's what they wanted to do. And so that was my goal, was in setting up the Business Development Lab and really a focus on business. And then, so I'll say President Wong came to us and said, let's take it not just from a business school perspective, but let's open it up across campus. And that's when we started the I3 Lab. I do want to put out there, why did we call it the I3 Lab, and why was I insistent on calling it the I3 and not innovation and entrepreneurship?
That's actually a very interesting story, because I remember still the whiteboard, we're whiteboarding, and I'm like, the name is up there, why, what's the deal?
Yeah, and so, and important for me and the work that I do is inclusivity. And so part of inclusivity, particularly here at WPI, is our students aren't going to go and start companies. Most of them are not going to start companies, but they have ideas. And we want to encourage them to take those ideas and understand them and look to see what the market need is. And so that was ideation. We want to make sure we serve students that have ideas that may never want to start a company. And then some of them do. And so then understanding, how do you take an idea and make it an innovation? And so the short story is, you find the market need, and that's the difference between an idea and an innovation, understanding the market need. And then some of those, once they understand the market need, are going to want to actually grow their companies. And that's where the incubation comes in. So that's how the I3 Lab came. The other part that's important from an inclusivity is that in my research, and so this is where academia comes in with what I do, is that I found that women and racialized minorities don't call themselves entrepreneurs. They call themselves business owners.
Yes. And is it the lingo, and I have my kind of anecdotal perspective of mine in it, but like, since you've done a lot of research on this area, is it to do with the language used around entrepreneurship, or is it?
It actually stems from the origin of the word, which is French.
Right. So like, what the hell it is? Nobody understands it.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody understands it. I can't even spell it most days.
Thank God for spell check.
Exactly. And so it has a sense of elitism. And then the stories that get told about entrepreneurships are the Elon Musk of the world.
The tech bro, I started from the garage, but my garage was 30,000 feet and bigger than
and
neighborhood.
I will say to that, at one of the universities I was at, their startup facility was called the Garage, and I protested that. Women don't start businesses in their garage. They start them at the kitchen table.
Yeah.
And so by automatically calling this the garage,
It's a bros area.
and it was a bro space. It very much was. It would go and would stink in there, I mean, physically of sweat.
Well, people used to smoke back in the day too. So.
No, this was a university, so students weren't smoking on campus. But it was definitely a bro space. But that's what the name said. You can come here and you're going to have you're going to be in a garage, and women do not become attractive to that place. So it was really incredibly important for me here at WPI that we have a name that does have inclusivity. But again, entrepreneurship is seen as an elite group of people, and I'm not part of that elite group. The other thing that I found, which I thought was really very interesting, that women need to be invited 3 times to do something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And that's what I did find out, that you get asked them once.
Is it because they're self-critical, or?
Part of it is
And we
self-criticism,
have sheer confidence and
but
ignorance.
it's
and
part of them. I don't see myself in that way.
I
What do
see.
you mean you're saying I can do a startup? That's not me. And then somebody comes back
Right,
at
that's
you.
somebody I've seen on TV. Or
Right, I haven't.
something,
I haven't seen it on TV because they're not out there. Women are not out there.
Right,
So
right.
no, I can't see myself there. But then the third time, you're like, well, maybe I am an entrepreneur. But I don't say entrepreneur. Maybe I am a
Right.
startup. Yeah, let me see what you're all about. So that's why we call it the I3 Lab.
So I've asked some of the students here just to validate my weird biases around the language, especially international students. And a couple of them, it's funny because they're like, oh no, we have no business experience. We don't know anything about entrepreneurship. And then as I'm talking to them, they're like, well, when I was 14, I did this, and this. I'm like, you did what?
Yeah.
I did all these things. I'm like, but
They have startup
that's-
experience.
That
Yeah.
is 101 entrepreneurship experience. You took
Yep.
you from your kitchen table, you baked cakes and you sold them in a market stall, and you figured out what to price and what to do and how to sell more and how to scale it to
You built
13
an app.
restaurants, and you build an app, or you did this.
Yep.
I'm like, what do you mean you don't know anything about entrepreneurship? Like, oh, well, that's what it is.
That's
So-
startup. Yep. And so, yes.
So that's very interesting on for us, especially for people that, because sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
Correct.
You just
Yeah.
use the word being thrown around. It helps to make us think around how can we not alienate people
Yes.
just
yeah.
with one word.
And that goes back to research. So the research, I do have done some research on discourse, and discourse is the way you talk about things. And so we just need to talk about startups and business in ways that people understand, as opposed to the way we think they should be thought about.
Right. Okay. So engineers. So let's look at this from we're at WPI. There's lots more engineers than anything else around here. They struggle or hesitate sometimes to commercialize ideas. They can build stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? They don't like people, or they like to hang out in the
It does.
in the machine shop, or what's the?
Yeah, they do. They like hanging about in the machine shop. I'm going to also say that what you get in your classes is how to be a good engineer, and it is about the features and what you're building out. And so part of it is they're not exposed to it.
Mm-hmm.
And once they get exposure to it, I think they can begin to understand, oh, yes, and then we talked about customer discovery. It is hard to do. If I can stay within my lab and create something, and then, oh, this is great, and I'm going to put it out into the marketplace, and I skip the customer discovery, a lot easier to do.
Right.
And then it fails, well, it's the marketplace problem, and it's not the product problem. It's getting it right for that market. So you get discouraged and you put it aside. And I think, and that's what we're trying to do at the I3 Lab, right?
Right. Yeah.
Just show you how you can take that idea and move it along.
Yeah. And from the academic perspective, because I know you're also running the PhD programs for entrepreneurship, you're working on new majors, so you can share as much or as
Yeah.
little as you want about it. How can WPI impact every student through the I3 Lab and beyond, some through courses, through majors, and some through the I3 Lab? How can we do, as a whole, WPI,
Yeah.
a better job at the innovation space, at exposing these students?
It's something that we've talked about from the business school perspective. So it is an ongoing conversation. Because, definitely I know I strongly benefited from the engineering and the business side, and that has really shaped my career. One of the things that I'm going to encourage all our students to think about is in your IQP and your MQP. You're particularly focused on an engineering perspective. The IQPs are a way to help you think more of the ecosystem and who's being impacted. And so that's what, why you have a social impact project that you're working on. But in your MQPs, also begin to just think about what is the business perspective that I should be taking into consideration in my MQP. And I'm going to tell you that we've met with robotic engineering professors, and we've sat down and they've asked us, what do you think our students should have? And so what we said, here's the core things that every engineering student should have and understand and should be able to talk about. And what they are is the value proposition. Who is going to benefit from this, and how are they going to receive value from it? We also want you to understand that there is a cost to building the product. And that isn't often talked about in engineering classes. But if you can build something and it's too expensive to sell, then you're never going to get it into the marketplace. So if you can just understand that there is a cost and there is a price that the product is going, whatever you're doing is going into the marketplace.
It's funny you talk about the cost part, because when we first ran the first summer accelerator, the first time, one of our students, after we went through the financials and how you cost the product and how you think of the things that they never thought that they go into the cost. One of them comes back the next day and he goes, yesterday you made I saw my soul leave the body, because they thought that they're going to build a product for $50 and sell it $100, and then they figure out that it's going to cost them so much more money. And it's funny to see often that you think most people would know that, and it's not true.
And it's because we don't teach it in our classes to think of that. You may get one class, maybe.
But we don't expose them enough to it.
We don't. And so that's what we were encouraging, is expose students to this idea that there is a cost, and if you can't cover your cost and some additional margins, you don't have a product. It's not going anywhere. But then also that value, what's the value? And then the third thing that we really want our students to think about, and I actually think WPI students do a really great job compared to other places I've been, is understanding, looking at what's my impact that I'm having on society. Is it a positive or is it a negative impact? And in the lab, we see students coming with all these really cool ideas that do have a social impact. And
they're pretty amazing.
Yeah, they are. And that's just part of what they're doing and what they want to do. So I'm really thrilled that that's just an innate part of who a WPI student is.
No, I mean, I'll say this in record. It's the students make, especially the part of the work that I do with you and everybody else at the I3 Lab, such a pleasure to wake up in the morning and go to work, because you're going to deal with these new ideas and they trying to do this thing, and they always have a social impact. And I look at it from that thing, like, thank God for young people.
Yes.
The world is a better place, because by the time you get 50, you're only thinking how to pay for the mortgage. And not everybody, but so it's a great pleasure to on that way. I will come back to entrepreneurship and WPI, but
startups.
I want to talk about this new last thing that you're doing, because you move through different waves of product development, chemical engineering, PhD, starting your own companies, starting ecosystems, and then a fellow of the op-ed project. What's that all
Yes.
about?
Yeah. Thank you for asking that question. It gives me a little bit of an opportunity to talk beyond what
Right.
this innovation space. So I'll just explain very quickly what the op-ed project is. So I am part of a group of 20 individuals, and it is a fellowship that's being sponsored by the MacArthur Foundation. And what the goal is kind of getting back to this idea that we do know that entrepreneurship, startup world, and tech is actually a white male-oriented environment. It just is. And that there are op-eds that are written, so in newspapers and magazines, opinion pieces, and they tend to be written by white males. And so that's the voice that's getting out there. And so this is what the MacArthur Foundation is looking to just add in another voice. And so as this fellowship, that is what they're teaching us how to write opinion pieces. They're teaching us how to get them out there and getting accepted. But more importantly, what they want us to do is come up with our perspectives and our own insights. And often they don't have to be, but most of the time they do have a tech focus on that. I just read an op-ed that was written by one of the colleagues in it, and she just really enlightened me quite a bit, like, oh, you're right, I don't think about this, and that's what's important. She was writing about the relationship between AI companies and this dysphoria in Africa. And there's a very strong push by these AI companies to get in Africa. And so she's questioning, is it really good for Africa as a country? And I'm like,
Water resources, whatever.
yeah.
That they're,
And
gonna try and work.
don't sell your soul, because,
Right. Yeah.
and that important piece of it too. She didn't use those words, but that was kind of this gist of it. And, you has to benefit the countries that it's going into. And that was her opinion piece. And I don't think about that. And
Right.
this is a really great perspective.
So also to just like clarify, it's a matter of perspective. It's not
Yeah.
just because there's a lot of confusion and people go like, oh, what's the problem with like a white male writing a piece? It's a matter of differences of perspective, not
Right.
that who the person is and what color he is, but if it's three guys from Maine always writing the pieces, then they're gonna have the
That
perspective from Maine and
Right.
the shores of the Atlantic Ocean. That's about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So you need that.
Right.
So that's
So I am going to, if you want to read one of the op-eds that I have written, this one is not about technology, but it is my history, the roots of who I am. We've talked a little bit about it, and it actually is an anti-ICE op-ed that went into USA Today.
wow, that's a great publication.
Yeah. So all you have to do is Google Rosanna Garcia, USA Today, and it will come up. And I talk about my brother's restaurant was raided by ICE, the impact it had on him, and the impact that it is having on me directly because of the color of my skin. And so this is what this particular op-ed talks about, is skin color. And Pantone is ratings of different skin colors. So that's what I used in that particular op-ed. So it, you can see it's not tech, but it is my perspective on what I am living with right now today in the United States.
Let's hope it's a temporary.
And we do hope it is
Niven,
temporary.
All right. That's really wonderful. So I'll get back to a couple of closing questions here for you. Very impactful at WPI. It's I'm very thankful and grateful that I met you. We won't go into like how the story. I was working on a failed startup when I met you. Let's put it that way. And it was very interesting because as I was closing it, I thanked everybody, and she was the only person that picked up on it, and she like tell me what happened, because everybody said when I was sending the emails, oh, okay, I'm sorry it didn't work out, see you later, and she's like, so what happened? And I'm like, oh, this person really knows the ins and outs of entrepreneurship, and the rest is history. But so here's a couple of questions. We're at WPI, plenty of students. There's a 19-year-old student, or 18, wherever they can be, in their dorm room right now listening, and they have ideas, but as usual, or most of the time, they're doubting themselves. And I got this question is because I had what I call an almost like a bad sheet of an email of a student writing to me about his idea, and within the email he's doubting himself like 1,300 times. And I'm like, just book an appointment, let's talk. Let's talk through this. What would you tell to a person that has ideas but is doubting themselves?
That the first thing that comes to mind, and I do believe this, is that there are no bad ideas when it comes to innovating. There's better ideas, but we call it the pivot, right? And so what we do is we take an idea that maybe is not well developed and develop it at the i3 lab. And so that's what we do, is we will help you take whatever your idea is, and it's possible that idea is not going to make it in the marketplace, and it's not because it's a bad idea, it's because the marketplace is not ready for it. And lots of times that will happen. So I want to encourage all of our students that come to the i3 lab. We'll help you to evolve those ideas and do what you want with it. And if you want to take it to market, we will help you take it to market, and we will get you the mentors and everybody you need, because you and I are not the experts in a lot of areas.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But we'll find the experts for you to help you take it to that step, and that's a resource that's available to you at no charge. And boy, I can tell you that if we had that when we were starting our companies, someplace to go at no charge.
So I've said that so many times, and now I'm beginning to say, if I had a dollar for every time I say this, like there was no such a thing when I was going through school.
Right.
You'd have had tremendous impact, and either saved me money or time, or pivoted the idea to a better spot and place. It is amazing that this actually is a WPI, and hopefully more students take
make use of it.
Yeah. What is the future of entrepreneurship education from your perspective? There's a lot of drama in higher ed right now. Things are going AI all over the place. Are we living the best days? The best days coming, or where are we at?
I think let me just step back a little bit, because I help to set the direction here at WPI for what entrepreneurship looks like. And I had early on discussions, should entrepreneurship be a major? And I've always said no in the past. And the reason why, when I made that conclusion at the time, is that it would be difficult for our students to get jobs with that. Oh, you're an entrepreneur. That means you're a maverick and you're not going to listen to the direction of the company. I no longer believe that is the outlook on entrepreneurship in the industry. Mm-hmm. That those with entrepreneurial training actually are ideal employees, because they come at it now, and this is what we do at WPI, and particularly i3 Lab, is they come at it from the innovation perspective, but now they also know the business side of it.
Right.
They know what a profit is, revenue minus cost, what a value proposition is, what the social impact. Those make ideal employees.
And you can help them think big picture and understand the layout of the land and what they need to do.
And there are not enough employees that have that type of thinking. I am working now on putting together a major that is innovation, entrepreneurship, and leadership.
Oh, wow.
And
wonderful.
We do know, and also another pitch for the i3 lab, that we know that students that have worked at the lab are getting jobs, and they're getting good jobs because they are being seen as coming from that ecosystem perspective that not many students do have. So I really think it is a benefit to have this type of thinking, where you are more holistic than you are for just an engineering degree or just a business degree. And that's what we provide to our students. So I personally think it's only going to grow, and it should.
So the future is bright.
It is.
Don't listen to the doomsayers.
It's bright. It's when you combine the two together.
Yeah, you combine the two together. And this day and age, with tools and even with the help of AI and everything else, you can combine.
And I'll throw a pitch out there. We have a lot of AI tools at the i3 lab that we do and we provide to students to help them to train that thinking in that direction.
We're pro AI people.
We are.
Yeah. All right. This is my last question for you.
Okay.
At some point, we'll either move on or retire or say we've had enough of doing this, and it's normal in life. When you think about your legacy at WPI, what do you hope that students, I don't care for anybody else to be honest, what do you hope that students say about their experience and the impact that you had in them?
That's a really good question. I haven't thought about it because I'm not retiring.
No, I know you're not, but
not retired anytime soon. And I will tell you.
But doesn't that sort of, and I don't maybe I'm revealing a lot about myself, but like, doesn't that become like a little bit of a driving how you conduct yourself, but how you try to do things for students so you can have an impact in them?
Yes, and so my colleagues, my friends are asking, when are you going to retire? And I'm like, why would I retire?
You wouldn't know what to do with.
No, I know what I would do. I would do what I'm doing right now today. So I would be doing the same thing. Exactly, without getting paid. Yeah. I would be out there mentoring startups. I would be encouraging women to think about they're doing their startup. I'd be working with the racialized minorities and their startups. I'd be doing exactly what I'm doing now. So I think anything I want our students to know about the i3 lab is we care about you and your goals and what you want to explore. And that has been my entire life. Like I said, I keep going back to I'm a better mentor than I am than a business owner. And that's what I want everybody to know. And I know that's the same for you.
It's unfortunately it's beyond the money. Hope my wife doesn't listen to this. But it's I've said this. I think I've said this to everybody. It's a very known thing. I have never had so much fun working with so little money in terms of pay. It's not that I don't get paid well, but it's just so much fun to go to work, and it's beyond the money, the impact of our work.
And so that kind of loops us back to my beginning, right? I had the mentors that saw something in me and encouraged me to explore whatever it is I wanted to explore, and I want to give back in that way to our students and to those I mentor.
Professor Garcia, thank you for your leadership.
Thank you for having me.
The courage and the commitment that you have to building ecosystems, mentoring, and the side of public good that you sort of never let go that piece. Because it's so easy once you're into the business to kind of get lost into that part of day-to-day and lose sight of what's really important, especially in the social impact. And thank you for sharing your story with us. And to our listeners, if you're listening, if this conversation inspired you, share it with your friends so more people can see it. And remember, innovation begins with your own beliefs. And get out of your dorm room, come to the i3 lab.
Second floor, Innovation Studio. Just come on upstairs.
Yep, take some actions.
Yep.
And we will help you get your idea to a better place. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.